Hi, I'm Greg Uland with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. Really excited about today's conversation. I get to talk with Chris Ponte. Chris is the parts director at Scranton Chevrolet of Norwich. And what makes Chris unique and somebody I'm really excited to talk to, he was a winner of our Automotive Amplifiers Contest at Amplify last year, and he's coming back this year to be a judge for us. So, Chris, thanks so much for coming on and talking with me.
Hey, no problem. Anytime. Great to see you again.
Yep, you too. All right, I want to start, Chris, and we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so if it doesn't go anywhere, that's okay. But your store it looked like, right around the corner from Mohegan Sun, right, from the casino there.
Correct. Yeah, I can look out the back window, and right across the river, we got Mohegan Sun there.
Yeah,
so we actually partner with them.
Do you?
And, yeah, we offer their employees a discount. We have a little lane that they can park their cars on. We go pick up the cars, service them, put them back. That way, when their shift's over, their car's ready to go. So we have a good relationship with them.
That's a great idea. And my they have the WNBA team there too, which this will be the last season in Connecticut, which I couldn't believe when that deal went down. But I don't know, that seems like it could be a fun opportunity to go over and watch a little basketball too.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things over. They have a lot of good concerts too. Yeah. I just went and saw Air Supply a couple weeks ago. I'm not ashamed of that. Yeah, I've always liked them. So I seen them about 5 years ago, and I seen them again a couple weeks ago. And they're in their 80s, but they still sound great, believe it or not. So it was a good time. And I'm going to see Queensryche, which is a 80s metal band that I grew up with. They're going to be there in a couple weeks, and also a Pink Floyd tribute. So they have a good concert like every couple weeks there. So it's nice. I live in town, so I'm 5 minutes from work. I'm 5 minutes from there. So it's a good opportunity to get out and enjoy the night a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, Chris, if you don't mind, share a little bit about your background, because you've gained some recognition over the last year or so after Amplify. You've done a few interviews with Automotive News, and so you're kind of getting this a little bit of a public persona. But I'll tell you, if somebody Googles you, there's not a lot out there. So, how'd you get your start in automotive? What's kind of your background, your story?
Yeah, so back when I was in my early 20s, I started doing textile design, believe it or not. So I was designing screens, rotary screens, so they could print the fabrics to make everything from comforters to shower curtains. So I did that for about 7 years. And then in my late 20s, I moved to the Carolinas, and I opened up my own design firm. Sorry, my light just went off here.
That's all right.
So anyways, yeah, so I opened my own design firm down there, did that for about 11 years. Worked with Gerber, Springs Industries, designed bedding, all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of got bored of it. So I moved back to Massachusetts, where I'm from originally. And I was kind of just on my, I'd say, early retirement per se, because I sold everything I had. And then my dad realized I was getting bored. So he knew a friend that was one of the runners. As you know, most automobile places, they have runners that will bring the cars to go get registered or deliver them. So I just started doing that just for something to get me out of the house. And I liked that. So I decided to open a little business. So then I hired a bunch of runners, and I was doing it for a couple auto groups. So they would call me, and I would send runners to different places. And one of the GMs liked me as a person and thought I was pretty good. So he said, hey, why don't you try to sell cars? So I did that for about 3 months. I did not like that. I don't really like selling cars, to be honest with you. I was pretty good at it, but I didn't enjoy it. So at that point, one of the dealerships he had was just selling cars, but they were going to open a parts and service center for that. So he said, hey, do you want to try to run that? So I said, okay. So I just fell into that and, got the lifts put in there, set all that up for that used car store. I did that for a few years. Then they became Mitsubishi. So I just went to the parts side because before that I was doing parts and service.
Sure.
So I was parts manager for Mitsubishi for a little while. Then I went to Nissan. And then I went back to Mitsubishi, and then I ended up here at the Chevy place. So basically, it's just a whole new career about 7 years ago, just from delivering a car to a customer, and I turned that into a business. And then when I stopped that, I turned that into a manager job, and now I'm a director. So usually when I like something and I enjoy it, I try to do the best I can. I've always, whether it was the textiles or this position here, I always look at ways to improve things. It's always been a big thing for me. So if, we're making 5, let's try to make 6, and let's try to make 6 at half the cost that 5 was. I just like that. And that's always helped me with whatever I've done. And it's really helped here. A lot of times when I buy parts now, if I buy like oil filters, I buy them from a wholesaler, and I'll buy 1,000 oil filters. So I get them 30 cents cheaper each one. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's an extra $300-400 profit I'm making before I even sell one. So that
Yeah,
allows me to have good gross and net numbers in my department here, even though we're a small store. So
sure.
hopefully that
No,
wasn't
it's
too long of an answer. Hopefully I didn't run over
no,
time, but I've
no. I
kind of
love it.
bounced
That's
around in many things, but this is what I'm doing currently, and I enjoy it.
no, that's great. That's great. I appreciate you sharing all that. I do want to dig in there. So you mentioned, kind of that continuous improvement, always looking for ways to get better. And I love your example of, okay, if we can make another $400 a month in oil filters, why wouldn't we do that, right?
Yes.
And so when I think about parts and I think about the parts department, I think it can be looked at and say, well, it kind of is what it is. It runs itself. If we're at 30% margins, we're in good shape. 40 on the retail side. Inventory is going to be kind of allocated through the manufacturer for the most part. Like it just kind of runs, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't have to be the case, I don't think. And I think you're showing that just in that basic example you gave, but also, in your amplifiers contest winning idea last year, you talked about fill rate and how, at the end of the day, if you don't have the parts, you can't sell the parts typically,
Exactly.
right? They're not going to wait around. So how do you make sure your fill rate's high? So maybe talk a little bit about that. And then any other metrics that you're looking at right now where you're saying, you know what, yeah, this parts department's running pretty well, but if I can make this a little better, make that a little better, change the way we do this, it's going to have a big impact on the store.
Definitely. And just as a point, I'm averaging between 44 and 46% is what I hold
Oh,
in
wow.
this department.
Nice.
So 45 is my goal every month, and sometimes I hit 46, sometimes drops down to 44, but 30 is not liked around here.
No, that's
You
great.
try to keep
That's
it up
great.
a little bit higher on that, yeah. And what allows me to do that too, as mentioning, is buying the parts cheaper, right? So if let's say that GM says an oil filter costs $1, you can sell it for $1.50, so you get a 50% profit. But if I buy it for 80 cents, now I'm making more profit, still selling it at the fair market value. So I think that's something to look into that a lot of people don't look at. And also buying them that way, make sure that I have them here, because GM has had an issue with some oil filters over the last few months. Some of their suppliers have went bankrupt. So they're like, oh, we got to have another guy design a new filter for us. And so I was able to buy, literally hundreds and hundreds of filters off my suppliers so that I
Yeah.
had them here, and I had other stores calling me to buy filters off me because they couldn't finish their warranty jobs.
Yeah.
So
do
I
you
think that's
typically?
important for my stock. And also by buying in bulk, as mentioned, you have more profit for yourself at the end of the day.
Yeah. Now for you, and if you don't want to go anywhere, just tell me. If you don't want to share anything, that's fine. But thinking about oil filters, right? Do you buy from a distributor that sells AC Delco parts? So you're getting
Yes.
kind of okay. All right. So they're AC
Yep.
Delco filters. So it's
Yep.
like
So we're
the
still putting
customer.
GM. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're still good for warranty. A lot of
Yeah.
times, also a trick that I don't think a lot of people know is with your powertrain. For example, you got some big wholesalers out there. I deal with one that's in Illinois. I have one in Texas I deal with. And sometimes I had a Buick a few months ago, not to bore you with this, but it needed an engine. So GM was going to put that in, and I get a certain percentage over cost, for GM warranty. But they had an engine at one of the places I use at cost minus 40%.
Oh wow.
They had it sitting there for a couple of years. So I made an additional $3,200 by
Right.
buying it off of them. And a lot of these guys, they offer free freight. So you're not even paying to get it delivered to you.
Wow.
So, even cost minus 10, cost minus 15, that's all profit that you're going to get. And
Yeah.
another reason that's valuable is, let's say we have a customer that comes in, they have an aftermarket warranty, or they're going to pay out of pocket. So there's not a lot of markup on powertrain with GM. So if an engine lists for $7,000, I might get it for $6,500. So there's only $500 to be made, right? So what happens when I get it at cost minus, I can still sell it to the customer for retail, but I make more money. Because a lot of times they'll come in and they'll say, oh, how much for a used engine? Or, something like that, or a remanufactured that's not GM. So by me sourcing parts at cost minus, I can still give them a GM product with a 3-year, 100,000-mile warranty. And they'll be paying what they would pay for a used engine at a place down the street that doesn't want to go out there and find these other resources. So that's a big thing, I think, of keeping the GM brand the warranty and still giving a fair, price to the customer and still making my numbers.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I'm hearing, or what I'm taking away at least, and tell me if I'm taking the wrong thing away, but it sounds like, just in however long we've been talking, 10 minutes here, you're not running a parts department inside of a dealership. You're running a business, right?
Yes.
You're looking at your inventory. What can I buy it for? What can I sell it for? And the margin's what I want, right? And it also sounds like, which I really appreciate, you're not just using the lever of raising the price. No. Right? You're looking at, how do I get the product for less? How do I spend less? Charge the same, right? But I'm still taking care of the customer. It's still fair for the customer. I'm just not spending as much cash. So I think looking at the department in a way that, you're running a business, right? You're running a parts company versus I'm supplying service with parts. Those are two very different ways to look at what you do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, coming from a business background, owning businesses, that helps with that, but you're absolutely right. So every dollar I save is a dollar I can make. I know it's an old adage, but that's basically how it goes. Like today, I just got a pallet of rotors. Literally, I had to take a pallet off the guy's truck because I got 40 of each kind for a Silverado for front and rear, because right now they're having trouble supplying those. So one of my guys that sells, AC Delco, he has certain part numbers that once he gets something in, he emails me. So I had on my wish list these rotors because it's one of the most popular rotors we have. And right now you can't get them from GM. So he got some in, so I got a whole pallet of them. So now I know for the next 2 or 3 months, because the other thing you want to do when you try to order these parts in bulk is you look what you've sold over the last 3 to 4 months, right? So if I say I've sold 60 rotors in the last 3 months, then buying 60 at one time is not a problem because I'll sell them over the next 3 months. If I've only sold 10 in the last 3 months, buying 60 wouldn't be very smart. And some people look at it that way and they say, well, I can get this price to drop if I get 60. So they think they saved $5 a rotor, but then you have $2,000 of capital on your shelf for a whole year. So you have
the demand is the demand.
What you're selling, and it's not always worth getting a deal just to get a deal. So
yeah, the demand is the demand, right? Like if you don't have the customers to buy the parts, then it doesn't really matter. So no, that makes a lot of sense. So when you're evaluating that, right, are you using, is it kind of numbers in your head, gut check? Is it a spreadsheet? Are you using other tools? Is it a combination of those? Like, how do you manage that where you look at it and say, okay, I know that I can sell these, I can sell 60 of them. Yep. So 60 is kind of my number. I know that I'm going to pay $50 from GM for them. This guy can get them to me for 35 at 60. I'll take that order. Like what goes into that calculation for you? How do you go about figuring that out?
Yeah, what's great is I use the Reynolds software. So I go to part maintenance.
I swear I wasn't actually leaning into that, but go ahead.
That's how I do it. It makes it really simple. So you go to parts maintenance. You type in your part number, and once you hit enter, that first screen basically shows you what you pay for it, your costs, all that stuff. But if you hit the page down button, it brings up a whole bunch of different screens that are very valuable. So you hit page down once or twice, I forget, but then it'll show you the last 2 years, right? So it'll show current year, last year, and it shows you how many you bought and how many you sold. So basically, if he has a deal on a part number, the first thing I do is go to part maintenance, page down twice, and I say, okay, I've sold this filter 30 times this month, 40 times last month, 30 the month before. So right there is 100 I've sold over 3 months. So I know I can buy 100 because you don't want to have more than a 3-month supply, in my opinion, not for parts that you can get readily available. So by doing that, it's great. The other good thing too is if you keep hitting page down, it'll show you all of your pricing. So sometimes sales might come up and say, hey, how much does it cost us, in employee pricing or at internal pricing. So in that same parts maintenance, by hitting down, it'll show you all your price levels. So it'll say price level 1. So it has that part in there, right? So it'll say your cost is $1. Price level 1 is $1.25. Price level 2, employee pricing. So you have all that right in front of you. So that's a pretty big tool that I use a lot of.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. No, it's anytime you can have help with that kind of stuff, and the less, I don't know, you have enough experience now where you probably, at least the high volume stuff, you kind of know, right? You can, and you'll probably still verify it, but you gut check it and it's probably good. But some of the lower volume stuff still, I'm sure it's really powerful to have just the data at your fingertips to back it up.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's reports that you could do, or I could build reports because Reynolds
Yeah.
is great at reports. I've learned how to build some myself, which is very helpful. But something just quick, like I just got the email from you. You got 50 of these. Do I want them? I type that number in, page down twice, and right there I can see right in front of me. Here's the demand over the last few months. And I say
Yeah.
yes or no based on that. So I don't have to do a lot of research or investigation to know basically if I'm going to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah. So how much, and maybe you don't have one, but like how much budget do you have to play with? So, if you usually stock, and I don't know what your inventory looks like, you could tell me, but 300 grand worth of parts. And, do you have another 50,000 to play with where it's like, hey, I think I need this stuff, or like, where do you have to go and get approval before you just go buy something?
They pretty much trust me with that. I've
Yeah.
not really raised it very much. Back when I won the contest, for example, I think we were averaging around 320,000. Here, that includes your tires, your bulk oils, all of that stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, what's included in that too is your cores, which a lot of people don't understand. But if you had like 4 engines in the back that you were just stocking, and the engines could cost, sometimes GM an engine costs $3,000 and it has a $7,000 core. So if you got
Yeah.
four of them right there, you got 40 grand of capital tied up in those
Yeah.
4 engines. And if you only got a $300,000 budget, I mean, that's, like a tenth of your supply just
Yeah.
on 4 things, which is silly, right? You don't want to do that. So I don't
Right.
really stock powertrain. Usually powertrain, I wait till I need it and then I get it. But after even inflating the fill rate as I did, we only went up about $5,000 because I
Oh,
was
wow.
selling off the stuff that we didn't need, even some at a discount because it had been here for a while. And then basically, GM has what they call a RIM program,
Yep.
a retail inventory management, I believe. So they
Hmm.
look at what I'm selling and then they determine, hey, we think since you sold 10 oil filters, you should stock five, for example. And one of the things I did for the contest and what improved my fill rate is I started typing in my lost sales individually at the end of the day. So when I paid a bill to a local dealer or one of these suppliers I mentioned, I would go in and say, okay, I just bought 10 of these oil filters and I didn't have any. So I could go into the lost sales and say, hey, I lost a sale of 10. But if I never wanted to stock them, I wouldn't put the lost sale in. So then RIM wouldn't start telling me to have it here because one way you could do it is just tell RIM to send you everything, right? And then you'll always have everything. But then you'd have $1 million worth of stuff here, and you'd be bombarded with all these things you don't need. So my
Right.
goal was to try to keep the inventory at the same dollar value or within, a few percentage points, but also have the parts that I actually need, because
Hmm.
that's the big thing. So now, like, for example, some wipers, a 22-inch wiper that goes on all the Silverados, Traverses, I have like 390 of them. Now, it sounds
Yeah.
crazy to have that many wipers, but I'll sell those in 2 months.
Well, I was going to say, how many ROs are you doing a day?
I mean, here, sorry about the light again. So
Okay.
here, I think right now we're doing between 30 and 45 ROs. We're kind of a small store. So
Yeah.
we're not doing a lot, but we're getting good penetration. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but GM has what they call Focus 6. So
Yeah.
they want you to focus on your batteries, your wipers, your air filters, your cabin filters, your brakes, things that, customers wear and tear items they're going to need. So right after I did the fill rate and got that up at the beginning of this year, I was looking over our Focus 6 because we get an email once a week from our GM representative, and it shows here's your percentage, and it compares you to your zone, your region, and then across the country, right? So we were basically red in almost all the categories, not selling as much as they think we should. Now, what's
Hmm.
good about this Focus 6 is it based on percentage. So even though we might have less customers than a big guy, they want to know how many people that come in, what percentage are you selling these items to? So if
Sure.
we only did 10 ROs, but we sold these things on five, then we're batting 50%. So
Hmm.
that's basically how that goes. So when I came up with the menu pricing, so that everything was easier to sell in the lane, so cabin filters were one price, air filters were one price, brakes were one price. We started selling more of those. So my goal to the owner was that by July, I wanted to be top 20 in the nation in at least two of those categories. So by the end of March, we were top 20 in brakes and wipers.
Nice.
Now, this is categories that we've never been in before. These were always red. Now they're all green, so we're within zone on everything, but we're actually top 20 in the nation in wipers and brakes. And those are very lucrative things to be in. Tires, we're not top 20, but as you probably know, tires don't make any money. For
Right.
anybody really, that's just something that they want to push through, and you have to have tires because cars have tires. But there's usually a 9% is what you usually get on a tire. So brakes,
Yeah.
there's more money to be had, wipers, air filters. So that's the things that we're focusing on. So,
Yeah.
but having the right parts on the shelf is a big thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, congratulations on that huge jump. I mean, that's pretty
Thank you.
impressive to get there that quick. So, let me ask you, because there is some debate about kind of one price, right?
Mhm.
And if it's so, let's use the air filter example, right?
Yep.
So air filters, $59, whatever it is. Is that now? Do you do that across the board? Is that by model? Because obviously the air filter for a Suburban is going to be different than the air filter for a fill in the blank, a Traverse, right? Like they're
Yep.
not going to be the exact same price when you buy them. They're not going to retail for the exact same price. So are you flat across the board where you make a little more on some, lose a little bit on others, or not lose, but
Mhm.
not don't make as much?
Yeah.
Or do you do it by model? Like how do you manage it?
So for the air filters, the wipers, and the cabin filters, I kept them all the same across,
Okay.
except if it's a performance like a Corvette, a Z06 might have, a more expensive air filter. So things like that, the specialty models. But basically, what I looked at is I said, okay, here's my average price for an air filter. Here's my average price for a wiper, right?
Hmm.
So I came up with prices that were competitive to people around us, and I figured out like where the middle ground was. So you're right, on an air filter on a Suburban, I might make $8. On
Right.
one on a Chevy Spark, I might make $15. But on all of them, I'm making something. So I didn't set a price that was going to make a loss on anything. So some the profit margin is going to be less, some it's going to be more. But just the fact that having it this way, we're selling so many more of them that even if all of them were get me that least amount of profit, I would still have more overall profit than we did in the past because we were selling so few of them before. Now on
Yeah.
the brakes, I have it set up on brakes. I have small SUVs and cars, and then light duty trucks, and then anything 2,500 or above is considered commercial and it isn't part of
Okay.
the menu pricing. But yeah, because obviously a Silverado, some of those rotors, as you know, are probably twice as much as they're going to be on a little Equinox. So
Yeah.
that I do have two tiers on for my brakes. But for my filters and for my wipers, I just have one thing because I found that to be the easiest way to do it. I'd rather make a little less here and there, but sell 10 times as much. And that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah. Now, have you had a chance to measure kind of average gross or maybe total gross where I don't know which way the best way to do it, but let's just say, before doing this, when you were, the advisor was calling up the parts department saying, hey, I need to check pricing availability on the wipers for this car. And they come back and so if wipers, I don't know, call it $50, you're pricing them out at, and that may be high, may be low, but, if before it was 44.95 or, 44.69 or whatever it was, and now it's 50, that's good. But then if they were, 52.35 and now they're 50, so I guess what I'm getting at is, have you had a chance to measure the before and after as
Yep.
far as either average margin or total margin, and what you've been able to accomplish there?
Yeah, like I said, basically I average between 44 and 46 gross a month.
Right.
And that's since I've done this. So it hasn't really hurt my gross numbers overall. And
Good.
ironically, on some of the wipers, I actually make more money now because I went to service and I said, I want to make this menu pricing. So I said, how much do you normally charge to put on a set of front wipers? So if they said, oh, $20, I said, well, how about 15? Right? So I got them to lower their labor rates. We made separate opera codes in Reynolds for these. They're called I don't know if I called it value wipers. I forget what name I used to it, but basically there's their own op codes now. So when my parts department sees that op code, I have an Excel spreadsheet I printed out. So they say, okay, that says value wipers. Then each one has to cost X amount of dollars. So we change our selling price to exactly that. So that
Yeah.
way, it, calculates out at the cashier for the 29.99 or whatever we have set for it. So yeah, I'm actually making more money on wipers now than we did before, even with matrix pricing, because I got service to lower the price a little bit on some of these things. And I've even encouraged some of the advisors to just pop them on right in the lane, right while they're talking to the customer. Oh, it looks like you
Yeah.
need wipers. They can just pop them on, and then that way there's no labor involved, and the customer is still getting their product.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, yeah, wipers is a great one because you just clip in, clip out, and move
Yeah.
on.
And they're so
Um,
easy to show somebody they need them, right? So, you got streaks on your windshield, or you just lift one up and it's ripped. I mean, it's not like there's any massive selling point. It's just like, this doesn't work. You need it to work. And it's a pretty easy sell. So,
yeah, or if it's raining that day,
exactly. Yeah.
were you seeing okay coming in here? Because
Yeah. Absolutely.
um, yeah, no, that's great. I love that. And so much of this stuff when you talk about it and you just bring it up, it's not that complex, but there's a lot of people and a lot of stores that don't execute on it. Why
Yeah.
do you think that is?
Maybe they don't know how to do it. A lot of
Yeah,
times too, if you go into a new place, right, especially if you're not a manager, if you
yeah,
just came in as somebody that works in the parts department, a lot of times there's egos involved, right? Like, hey, I've always done it this way. That's the thing I hate the most out of anything. When the excuse is we've always done it that way. Well, that doesn't mean that it's right? You know what I mean? So I look at it and say, okay, you've always done it this way, but let's try it this way or that way and see how it works. Like, what's it going to hurt if we just try something new? And that's what I look for when I hire people too, is I want people that are creative thinkers. Like I mentioned, I didn't come from automotive, right? I came from a
right.
whole different arena, but I think that helps me too because I look at it differently than somebody that maybe has just worked on cars their whole life. Because
Yeah,
I've been involved in other business and buying parts and buying supplies for different things. So basically, I mean, like you mentioned, this is my little business within Scranton Chevy, right? Because
yeah,
I get paid on what I do in this. So the more gross I have, the more money I get, for me and my family. So that's what you want to do. You want to do
yeah,
the best job you can. And I think a lot of people just come in, they start day one, and then day 1050, they're just doing things the same way.
yeah,
And I mean that's okay if that's how you are, but you're not going to grow your department. You're not going to make more money because it's not like we have a bunch more customers here now, even though we're doing more gross. I'm just me able to squeeze every penny out of everything we sell.
yeah,
So if I'm buying my supplies cheaper, I'm getting labor to be reduced on certain things, and that's more profit for my department. So,
yeah.
there's different ways to look at it other than just black and white.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Something else that I've had a lot of conversations around with dealers in this area. So, you're talking about a lot of really important things when it comes to buying right, pricing it right, but also obviously your biggest customer is the service department,
Mhm.
right? And so how can the service department get more and more throughput, right? There's only so many bays, there's only
Yeah.
so many technicians, and everybody's trying to get, every last tenth of an hour, right? Every 6 minutes, we can't let 6 minutes go by and not
Yeah.
book it. So, I've had a lot of conversations around certainly fill rate, but also basically shifting from fill rate to more of I don't even know the right way to frame it, but parts availability in the bay, right? Like time from let's call it approval to bay time,
Yeah.
right? So the time the customer approves the work to the time the technician has the parts in his bay, like how do we shrink that window as much as possible so that tech just keeps working? Is that something you've thought about at all? And what are you doing to try to impact that?
Yeah, you can actually look that up. There's a report you can go in Reynolds that has that where it'll tell you how long every person's held it, right? So how long it's been in parts, how long we looked at it, how long till the advisor got an approval. You can actually look all that up, and it's pretty daunting sometimes. I used to get mad when I was tracking it. If like we left here on a Saturday at 1 o'clock and one of the techs stayed till 1:15 and he would put something in and we're already gone home. So then I would come in
Yeah,
and it would skew everything because now something's been in there for like 49 hours because nobody was here to look at it till Monday morning. So
right.
kind of screw the whole percentages. So that was a little bit upsetting sometimes. But basically, like you mentioned, having the right parts here. So a lot of
Yeah,
times, if it's a special order part, like something weird that doesn't break a lot, then you're going to have that time. But basically, I try to tell my advisors right away, look, I can either source that from another dealer, and a lot of people don't like to do that because I got to pay 10 over, 15 over cost to get it from another dealer. But I look at it as, hey, I want to get this customer back on the street so the next guy can pull in. So I don't mind losing 10, 15% here or there, sending my guy to go pick up a part if it means that we can get that car out of the bay today. And that's something a lot of people, again, don't want to do because they don't want to lose that 10 or 15%. But if you got a bay tied up for 8 hours, right, because you got to wait till
yeah,
tomorrow for GM to bring the part, you could have, how many parts could I have sold in that bay, right? So
Yeah.
I look at it that way. So let me go get that one part, make a little less, but the next four cars that guy works on today could potentially make me even more money. So I
Yeah.
think that's important. But also with Reynolds and Reynolds, as you know, you have a service queue, which we have. We have multiple screens in the part department. So one of them always has a service queue. So once something comes over for us to look at, it pops up. We try to get in there right away. And with using SPG, a lot of times parts will already be there, and we just got to see do we have them, how quickly we could get them. So SPG helps with that also. That allows the technician to pick if he's looking for AC Delco Gold, Silver, OEM parts. And sometimes the trick with that too is if he picks OEM parts, right, it'll come through and say, hey, I don't have the rotors for this Silverado. So what another thing that we do that I train my people to do is grab that VIN, go to the GM parts catalog, check, type in rotor, see all the other options for the rotors. Because I might have a silver or a gold rotor on the shelf. So
Mm-hmm.
just because the tech picked OEM doesn't mean it
Yeah.
needs OEM. So by doing that and seeing, hey, I've got the silvers on the shelf. So I'll change the part numbers before I send it to the advisor. So now it says in stock, right? So now when they talk to the customer, hey, you need brakes. Good news, we have all the parts right here. So that's usually
Yep.
a quick sell, especially for brakes. People know they're
Sure.
important. So then they get an approval, and then by the time the guy comes up to the counter, here's your rotors and pads. So
Yeah.
that helps get everything done quickly also.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. All right. Well, Chris, while I have you, I do want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little about Amplify. So last year,
Yeah.
obviously, you joined us, which was great. You were up on stage. You won an award last year. You're coming back this year to be a judge. We'll be out in beautiful San Diego, kind of Carlsbad, California, August 10th and 11th. So looking forward to seeing you out there again.
Thank you.
But I guess two things. So first one. What was it like putting together a presentation and preparing for the competition? Because that's that's a skill set that not a lot of people have the opportunity to kind of sharpen the sword on too often.
Yeah.
And then the second part of it that we can get to is what are you looking forward to about being a judge? So maybe start with, because a lot of people right now, we're seeing a lot of applications come in for the Amplifiers Contest.
Right.
And some of them are really, really strong. But what, I guess, any tips, or what was your experience like kind of going through and thinking through, okay, how do I present this?
Yeah. So I basically had the idea. It was a problem I had to solve here. And then I got the email from you guys about the contest. So I was like, cool, I can actually focus on the contest, but also help the business here. So you basically, even if you don't win, you can still improve your department and, you can benefit from that going forward. So I basically got all the facts down. I said, here's what's happened over the last few months. And then in PowerPoint, I made basic PowerPoint thing. And I was all nervous when I went out there because other people had like little spaceships flying around on their PowerPoint. Mine was basically just screenshots. So I was a little nervous thinking I didn't have any good animations. I just had data, right? But luckily that was enough. So yeah, I just had the data up there and people were able to follow along. So if you're making a presentation, make it so it's simple because you basically have 5 minutes up there in front of everybody to explain it. So you
Yeah.
don't want to hang up too much on one part or the other. Just basically, here's the problem we had. Here's what I did to fix it, and here's my results now. And basically, on those merits there, you should do pretty well. And it was
Yeah.
nerve-wracking because I'm not usually in front of a bunch of people. So when I was set to go out there, I thought I was going to sit at a table with like 3 or 4 people and explain it to them, kind of how we're talking right now. And then when I get out there and she showed me that, oh yeah, it's out here in this big room and there's like hundreds of people. It was kind of nervous for me, I have to admit. And then I
Yeah.
was thinking, well, everybody's talking, right? So they're not going to really pay attention to me up there. But right before you get up there, they tell everybody to sit down and pay attention. And it's like, oh man, I can't win. So you get up there and then you just got to, work through it. So it was good that I did it. I'm happy that I did it. It was a good experience for me, but it's not something I normally like to do. But it was good to do. Everybody was great. Everybody that helped out there. The venue was amazing. The food was great. Just a good sense of community with everybody. I didn't really know anybody when I went out there, but I felt like I knew people after I left. So it was a very good experience.
That's great. That's great to hear. And you did a great job. You certainly did. So
Thank you.
Looking forward to having you again. What are you looking forward to the most about being on the flip side this year, being a judge?
I just think it'll be cool to be able to see all the ideas, right? Because I'm an idea guy. So being able to see how other people's minds work and, issues they're having and then seeing how they're thinking of combating them, that'll be good. 'Cause I like that. Just digging down into it, seeing, getting in the trenches. Here's the problem they had. Here's what they did to solve it, and here's their results. I think that's going to be great, and just getting to meet, all these people that have these great ideas.
Yeah.
It'll be
No,
great. Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Well, while I have you, Chris, I got to ask. I'm curious. The parts department and the parts business has been pretty consistent, right? And I'm curious from your perspective, what do you see for the future of parts? Is it more of the same and we keep making tweaks? Is anything going to change? I mean, what do you see as kind of, we turn the page in a year or 5 years and we say, man, this parts department is very similar to what it was. It runs more efficiently. We're doing a better job in these areas. Or is there anything that you see that has the potential to change kind of dramatically?
Well, I think if you switch over to more electric vehicles, right, that's
Yeah.
going to make a big change. I mean, they have different needs. I mean, I happen to own an EV Blazer, and when I bring it in for service, they rotate the tires, right, and they check the windshield wiper and the cabin filter. That's basically it. There's no oil, there's nothing. It's pretty low maintenance, at least on the early miles of the vehicle. So there's not as much parts that you need for it, right? Because a lot of that battery and the motors, they're all kind of just packaged in there as one thing. So it either works or it doesn't for the most part. So there's a lot less maintenance for them, which is good for the consumer, but it's less work for us to do here. So I think that if we keep trending in the electric vehicle range, that's definitely going to impact the parts and everything. But at that point, maybe there'll be more accessories, there'll be more things that you can sell on the other hand of it, to make the car look better or
Yeah.
function better, things like that. Because I mean, the business isn't just going to go out, right? It's just going to shift. So if people don't need oil, then they'll find something else that you can put in one of those that they can sell to you. So that's what's great about the consumer. They always want to consume more. So we just got to find out what that is. So I think that'll also be probably 10, 20, 30 years from now before electric really takes over just because of the power grids. And I don't think they can handle everybody plugging in a car at night
Yeah.
right now. So I think once they figure that out, it might shift, but that'll be a long way away, in my opinion. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but that's how I kind of see it. Because we maybe have one electric vehicle every 2 days coming here for service. So it's
Yeah.
it's still a very small percentage, at least for GM vehicles that are the EVs.
Yep. Yep. No, that's a good call out. Well, Chris Ponte, I really appreciate your time today hopping on here. It's been a great conversation. I feel like I could talk shop with you for hours.
Yes,
It's been
definitely.
really enjoyable. Before we hop off, is there anything we didn't talk about that we should have? Anything I should have asked you about that I didn't?
No, I think you covered everything. Hopefully, you did. Hopefully, my answers weren't too bad or long-winded.
No,
I
you're
get
great.
worried sometimes that I'm just rambling on.
No, you were fantastic. So, Chris Ponte, Parts Director at Scranton Chevrolet, thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you in a few short weeks out at Amplify.
Sounds great. Thanks again. Take care.
I really do feel like I could talk to Chris Ponte all day long. Lots of insight there, lots of experience. I hope you were able to get something out of that conversation. Can't wait to see him again at Amplify and hope to see you there as well, August 10th and 11th. Make sure to register if you haven't yet at rayray.com/amplify. And before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.